you know how most of us in our 40s, 50s, and 60s speak about our beloved Jamaica in really endearing and nostalgic terms. We talk about how much we love that country, how much we love that small nation, how much we love that little piece of rock we claim as ours. And we speak about it as if it's the greatest place on earth, and in some ways it is. However, what I want to ask you a question tonight in this deep dive. Are we talking about the same place, that place, that a place that people like myself grew up in? And does that place still exist? Does the Jamaica that we talk about with such nostalgia, such love, even those of us who, particularly those of us who live in the diaspora, we talk about Jamaica with such longing and loving, and even as some people make the decisions to go back home. Are you going back home to the place you left? And I'm not talking about in terms of uh, whether we have roads now or we have good shopping malls everywhere and better roads, or whether we have bad roads or whatever. I'm talking about, I'm really talking about whether the place we speak of with such nostalgia still exists. Does it, the same Jamaica that we love and the same Jamaica that the younger generation talk about, is that the same place? Because previously we had a country where most of our folks are from the rural parishes, um, God-fearing people, people who believe in values. Most of these people are social conservatives who believe in helping their neighbors, who help to raise their neighbors' children. It was a village that raised the children. It was a village that raised me. But does that country exist anymore? Because contrasted with that is another Jamaica, the inner city Jamaica, a subset of Jamaica, a loud subset of Jamaica that scratches and scrapes for everything, which forces those people within those underserved communities to become more harsh, animalistic even. And that subset does not necessarily believe in the same values that rural Jamaica believes in. They are virulent anti-establishment. And because of the way they live, for the most part, they tend to be against everything, including law enforcement, because law enforcement is seen as an enemy, and to some, stopping their food. And when it becomes as base and colloquial as that, we have a problem. So the question is this more abrasive, anti-establishment, loud subset now has this group overtaken Jamaica and forced the silent, what we used to call the silent majority, that believe in God and country, the rule of law, and manners and respect. Has that group been silenced forever? The question is for you to answer, and I believe it is a serious question. You know, our nation is at a dangerous crossroads, in my estimation. The moral foundation that's what's guided our nation, a belief in God, country, and the rule of law, I think it's under relentless attack by an insurgency of lawlessness. The country was once shaped by disciplined, hard-working class rural people, hard-working rural folks. From this group came teachers, police officers, doctors, clergy, and leaders who instill in their children a respect for authority and the laws that uphold their civilization. These individuals, largely from rural and suburban areas, believe in earning an honest living, building their communities, and protecting the integrity of the nation. do we still have that today? In stark contrast, an opposing force emerged, rooted in the urban sprawl of Kingston, St. Andrew, Montego Bay, and beyond. These areas are plagued by squatting. They're breeding grounds for crime and lawlessness. A lawlessness made possible by corrupt politicians who pass legislation that enables land theft and criminality. This group, conditioned to believe that the government owes them a living, has no respect for the rule of law. When handouts do not arrive, they resort to crime, violent, ruthless crime, to take what they want. It is about time someone call it what it is. The ghettos are a breeding ground of criminality. Even those who escape the depths of poverty and earn academic success often carry with them a deep-seated resentment for the nation's laws. They may have degrees and letters behind their names, but their minds remain shackled by the anti-establishment rhetoric that fuels disorder. Rather than advocating for law and order, they become its most vocal critics, using their platforms to undermine national security and national stability. Nowhere is this cultural decay more evident than in the so-called artists who emerge from these ghettos. Their so-called music is nothing more than a toxic, hate-fueled mantra that glorifies murder, lawlessness, and anti-police sentiment. This propaganda drowns out the voices of the silent, law-abiding majority who have remained passive for far too long. At this point, I want to ask if you view this content, if you think it's worthwhile, please give us a subscribe and hit the notification bell so when we produce new content, you may be the first. You'll be among the first to receive them. We ask that you share the videos. Feel free to share the videos. And if you enjoy the content, give us a like. It costs you nothing, but it helps us. Thank you so much. Now back to the point I was making. The question we must ask ourselves is this: does the moral majority still exist? Or have the moral majority been overrun by a culture that normalizes criminality, demonizes law enforcement, and handcuffs the very people sworn to protect us? This underclass is embedded in our politics. They are in our courtrooms. They are in our colleges and institutions. Make no mistake about it. They're also running for political office. Criminals. Police officers, the last line of defense between civilization and anarchy. They're routinely assaulted, obstructed, and ridiculed while carrying out their lawful duties. And yet, for decades, the Jamaican Parliament has refused to pass laws that would make it a felony to hinder or obstruct police officers in the execution of their duties. Because the politicians themselves, some of them, are criminals. Instead of backing law enforcement, our politicians of both sides have cowered in the face of criminal agitators and human rights activists who have twisted justice into an unrecognizable criminal-friendly ideology that does not represent our country. The result? A society where criminals believe they have a right to resist arrest, where police officers are forced to use greater levels of force just to uphold the law, where women who benefit from the proceeds of criminal activities act as the front line of lawlessness, screaming and inciting mobs to attack officers who are merely doing their jobs. And what has the parliament, the two political parties, done about it? Absolutely nothing. And one party is worse than the other. The police department, already stretched thin, is left to fend for itself against an emboldened criminal class and a paralyzed legislature, too incompetent or too afraid to act. Meanwhile, a corrupt judiciary continues to hand down laughably lenient sentences, emboldening criminals even further. Is this the Jamaica we're talking about? Is this the one we're fantasizing about? Jamaica is at war with itself. The moral law-abiding majority must decide whether it will stand up and reclaim it, our country, or if they will remain silent and allow the lawless, criminal-friendly subculture to fully take over. Will we allow the ghetto rats to win? That's the question. One thing is clear. The time for inaction is over. If Jamaica is to survive, decisive action must be taken to restore order, protect our police, and eliminate the growing cancer of lawlessness before it consumes the nation entirely. This has been the deep dive tonight. Thank you for spending a little of your time with me. I appreciate it. Like I said, subscribe to our channel, like the videos, hit the notification bell, and share. Have a good night.